Hi everybody, Creative Katie Karen Burchill here. As you may remember if you've watched my channel, my word of the year was challenge. And what I wanted to do this year was challenge myself as an artist, trying new techniques, revisiting ones that I had tried and didn't find success with, just pushing myself out of those comfort zones. I also wanted to challenge myself in my art-related business. I wanted to move forward and take chances and reach out to other artists and art-related businesses and explore some of the options available to collaborate. And so this playlist is made possible because I've done both of those things. I reached out to a fellow Canadian entrepreneur, Nicole, who is with Ninny's Napkins, and said, hey, you know, we're both building an art-related type business or whatever. Is there something, are you interested in doing a collaboration? And she said, yeah, let's talk and see what we can come up with. And so she has provided me with an assortment of lovely napkins and rice papers from her business, and I am going to create art journal pages, mixed media pieces with this art supply. Now, why is this a challenge? This is a challenge to me because while I've used napkins in the past, I really have not explored the different ways that you can use napkins. I've used it sparingly, and I wanted to challenge myself and push beyond just decoupaging it down. And I found that the best way, and you've heard me say this, to do so is to just do it. Immerse yourself in it. So I have all these napkins. I'm going to experiment with napkins. I'm going to ask myself, what would happen if I did this? Or can I do this? And you know, again, you've heard me say it, sometimes you win and sometimes you learn. And I'd like to take you along on this napkin journey with me. So why napkins? Napkins are inexpensive. They're readily available, and you can access a whole variety of different patterns, designs, focal images in a very cheap, inexpensive way. Now, one of the things that caught my eye when I was looking through Nicole's site, Ninny's Napkins, was that you do not have to buy an entire pack of 20 napkins. You can purchase just 2 of a design that you like. So instead of buying 1 pack and getting 20 napkins, I can have 10 different patterns in my stash, which I absolutely love. Now, Nicole has graciously offered a discount to my subscribers. There is a code in the description box, Katie15. You will get 15% off your purchases one time through her store, NINNYSNAPKINS.com. And I'll put all the details of that discount and the address and the link in the description box below. So you're going to have to go there to get the details. So let's look at some of the napkins and do a little bit of basic Napkin 101. First off, there are different sizes of napkins. Pay attention to that because the scale may affect how you're going to use them. The smaller napkins may work really well with iCads and ATCs, whereas you may need a bigger napkin for if you were doing a larger art journaling page. But there are ways around that, and we're going to explore that. Now, all napkins are not created equally. And here's another thing that I love about Nicole's site. When you go and you can see the pattern, she has a view where she opens up the napkin so you can see exactly what you're getting in all 4 quadrants. Now, why is this important? Well, you need to know when you're planning to use the napkin, are you getting, 2 identical ones, 4 identical ones, or 2, are they mirrored, are they what? And I'm going to show you examples of those. Some napkins, when you open them up, have 4 identical quadrants. And that gives you leeway. You know how many of each you want. So if you wanted to have one in this corner and one in this corner, you know you're going to have that. So it's really important when you go on Nicole's site to click on that picture that shows the napkin opened up and look at what you're getting and analyze it. You can still get the napkins that are different, but you need to know what you're getting when you're planning so you don't have surprises. Sometimes I've bought napkins at the dollar store in different places where you only get 1 quadrant. These are all blank. And I might really love this and I might still purchase it, but I need to know that so we don't have that unpleasant surprise. So this lovely napkin, there's a lot here. So I would choose this napkin because there are so many images that I can use in a variety of ways. I can just use the leaves, I can use the flowers, but there's no repetition here. Everything on here is unique. So if I wanted 2 of these, I need to have at least 2 napkins or maybe buying a pack. This one we have top and bottom. This is the same as this. So we've got 2 of each. On this one, we have these 2 are identical, these 2 are identical. And again, with all of these 3, we have a lot of images. So you're going to get your money's worth from this because you can use this in a multitude of ways. And I'm hoping to explore that in this series. We have this one, and right away you can see these 2 are identical, these 2 are identical. I love this flower, but I'm limited because there's not 4 of them. Now this flamingo one is so cute and I love it. But one of the things that I noticed, they're not mirror images. One of the things I wanted to do right away, I thought, oh, I'll have one flamingo facing this way and one flamingo facing this way. And I can't do that because of how the napkin was created. And that's okay, I just need to know that. Whereas the owls, we've got an owl looking left or looking right, and we have an owl looking the other way. So I can have both of those. So this gives me a little more options in setting up the composition. When you get a napkin, the napkins typically have 2 or 3 plies. So you need to take 1 or 2 pieces off the back. And what I'm going to do, not all on the camera, is I'm going to pull all the backs off these napkins. Now, these are valuable. Do not throw this away because you can stamp on this with your stamps. You can stencil on it. And because it's that napkin paper that is going to become translucent and almost disappear, it's a wonderful thing to collage with. So I'm going to put these aside. I can even stamp sentiments on here where the background is all but going to disappear. And we're going to do some of that. Now, some napkins are easier to get a hold of, and sometimes you can just wet your finger and get it, or just pick at it and get it. Now, if that doesn't work, what you can do, and I've had more success with this, is put a little bit of tape and of course, because we're doing it on camera, there we go. And you can pull that back. Okay, there we go, right to the edge. And the tape, what I should have done is just take it on my jeans and made it so it's tacky but not overly tacky. So we're just going to pull this off. Now the one that's right close to the pattern will often have a very slight pattern to it. So I'm going to keep these separate because I have seen some videos where they've used this to doing all sorts of other things. So some of that might show up. And then I'm just going to fold this. So let's just do another one quickly here. Love this poppy one. So that came off pretty easy. And this one, oh, just about there. But I'm just gonna help myself a little bit more. There we go. Just needs to grab. So I'm going to come back. I'm going to talk about storing these a little bit, and then we are going to create our first project using napkins. So I'm storing the pull-off sheets separate from the napkins. And I have them in these plastic pockets, and I'll put a video or a link to the video where I show my organization system. This is part of the stash, and it's going to go right into my organization system. So I'm going to pull these apple blossom napkin, and we're going to use a Crafter's Workshop stencil, and we are going to create. So the first step is I want to set up the composition for my page. And before I start cutting up the napkin, I need to have an idea of how I'm going to use that napkin. Now, the best way that I've found to get the image that you want out of the napkin is to take a brush, and I'm just dipping it in water on the side. I've got some water on the sprayed on the glass mat, and I'm letting it soak through, and I'm just pulling it apart. I'm getting as close as I can, and I'm just very carefully. Now the napkin, once you've removed the first two plies and you add water, it becomes very fragile. And when I'm cutting out this, I'm not going to be so perfectly exact. There's a lot of forgiveness in the napkin, and I'm going to take pieces of this napkin and build the picture that I want. I do not have to use it as the artist created this napkin. And you can see I'm taking out large areas where there's white. Now, how much you take it out will vary. And that's just a decision that you're going to make. I took out a lot, but most napkins go very translucent, and you can't see where the napkin is. Now, because I am still playing with composition, I'm going to take a couple of these out. Now, this napkin had 4 of the same in each quadrant. And that allows me to mix and match and play. Now, while I'm just keeping this napkin by itself, you can mix different elements from different napkins. And we will be doing that in upcoming napkin journal tutorials. So I want to have this cherry blossom in one from the upper side and one from the other side coming up. So I'm laying it on the page and size of page that I want to do that. So I'm just getting an idea of what I'm going to want, and then picking out some of the larger areas of the white. I want to remove as much excess as I can without really damaging the image. And I'm picking up these little pieces, which, is a negative side effect of it. I had these little bits. Then once I had the pictures, I cut out a sentiment that goes with it just to get final composition, and I took a picture of it. So now we want to create a background. Now this is a spring inspired art journal spread. Cherry blossoms, and the cherry blossoms are starting on Vancouver Island here. So I want to make a blue sky background, and instead of using a makeup sponge to apply the paint, I grabbed my brayer, and this is the Ranger brayer. I wanted a little one to use directly on my art journal pages, and the big 4-inch one or 4.5-inch speedball one that I had was a little too big and left too big of a mark. So I purchased this smaller one, and I love how the paint comes off this roller much faster and easier. Now I try the cherry blossom napkin with the lighter color. First I use light blue permanent and yellow green, and then I grabbed turquoise, and because I felt I needed it to be a little bit darker. And I'm just brayering on. Now I'm taking the turquoise, the darkest color, and this pattern, and I'll put a link to this stencil in the description box below. I wanted it to be light and airy. I wanted some white to show, somewhat to hide the napkin. I wanted some of that green, yellow green in there. There is some of that yellow green on the napkin. So I'm just tying it into the colors of the napkin. And this one, we're not really using the colors in the napkins so much as the basis for the page, but in future napkin journal tutorials, we're going to be using the color scheme that's been set out. So here I'm just grabbing a little bit more of the white out of here. Little bits, and I'm just to help myself. And now you can see I have this one piece, and I'm going to piece it together and basically come up with my own composition. So at first I take the water brush or the brush and I get the basic pattern. And now I'm tweaking it. Now that I have a better idea of the composition and I've started to create the page, now I might change that and go in and remove more of the napkin or go back to the napkin and get more pieces from it. You do not need lots of water. This is a very small angle brush, and I've had the most success with this or with a liner brush that's a longer liner brush. Now, if you get too much water on it and the water goes where the pattern is, stop, dry it, and then come back and reapply water and get what you don't want out. So now that I've tweaked that, I am getting a soft brush. I'm not getting my usual decoupage glue gel medium brush. It's very hard and rough. I want a softer brush, and I'm putting liquid matte medium. This is from Liquitex. Underneath, and then I'm going on top, and you can see how the white of the napkin, once you have the matte medium under and on top, just pretty much disappears, and I'm seeing the blue from the background come through. And I wanted that to happen on this one. Again, in future tutorials, I'm going to show you what you can do if you don't want the background to come through. Now, once you have the napkin wet with the matte medium or decoupage or Mod Podge or whatever you're using, you can use watered down PVA glue. It's very fragile and it's very easy to rip, which is why I'm using a softer brush and I'm being fairly gentle. So that branch broke off, but because you can glue it back on, I can add it and no one's the wiser that it ripped. And there I'm adding a branch and basically designing my own page. And sometimes you're going to want to cut your image up into littler parts because it's easier to handle. If you've got one and it's all together, it becomes very difficult to handle, especially this one where I took out most of the excess white. So I'm drying that, and I absolutely love the look of this. The napkin pretty much melted away. You do not see a harsh line where the napkin ends and the page begins. So on with the page. I'm adding a sentiment here, still playing with the idea of do I want to add some of these little pieces? Not sure, we'll decide later. I picked a font that had fairly bold black, and that just kind of reads well with the branches from the napkin. So napkins are great to use as focal images, and that's how I'm using it here. Now I'm taking this charcoal pencil and I'm just going around the branches and some of the blossoms, giving a little bit of definition to it, using the napkin as my guide, but I'm adding a little bit more definition or shape to the apple or cherry blossom, as you will. Now, because I'm using charcoal pencil here, it is smudging and it is getting kind of cloudy, and that's shading, and I'm liking that look. I could be using my Inktense pencils as well. Because it's charcoal, if I was going to put wet medium on top of this, I would need to spray this with a workable fixative first so it doesn't smudge and make the whole page dirty. I typically don't varnish or seal my art journal pages, so I'm not going to worry about that. Now I'm using the same charcoal pencil and just outlining the sentiments, shading around the sentiments. And then shading around to edge the pages, the page here. Adding some white splatter, and in that container I have white paint that I've thinned down for the purpose of splattering. And because I do a lot of it, I just have a little container at the ready. And I'm just giving it a bit of a dry, removing the tape. And there's the napkin, and there's the stencil, and 3 colors. So a simple page, but oh so beautiful. Check out NINNYSNAPKIN.com. Discount code is in the description box. Here are some close-ups of the final page. I hope you love it as much as I do. Give me a comment, give me a thumbs up, and I'll see you for the next video.